Well, that was going to be my next question.
And that you know, if his theme song.
You could see him wanting to be mentoring him.
Yes, but right now he can't see
do that.
No, it's not that he can't do it. He doesn't. He desperately wants Hillary to win for a lot of different reasons that relate to
him.
No, to her as well. And you know, they have a political partnership, and it's her turn, and they're very, very close politically. You know, and they have a kind of a mind meld on issues, and so I think he really does want her to win. For him, it would, of course, be a validation after impeachment and the rest of it of his presidency.
A sort of a re-election.
But I think on some deeper level, maybe at a subconscious level, excuse me, which he won't understand for at least a few years probably. You know, his theme song in 1992 was "Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow" by Fleetwood Mac. And he has always known, and he said to me on more than one occasion, politics is about the future. And, you know, campaigns are about the future.
Yeah.
And so on some level, I think he understands that even though he wants her to win, that Obama is a little bit more like he was in 1992, and also might carry on some of his legacy, because Clinton wanted this third way business. He wanted this bipartisanship. He really did want to move beyond the old divisions, the old arguments of left and right. His problem is he was a baby boomer, and so he was so tied up in that, and such a Velcro, what I call a Velcro politician. And I have this theory that to be a Teflon politician like Ronald Reagan, or we might see that Obama is Teflon, there's some indication. You can't have been one of those baby boomers. It's just too polarizing. There's one other reason why I think Clinton might be glad in retrospect, not now, but in retrospect, that if Hillary doesn't win. He's doing wonderful work now with the Clinton Foundation, and I've been very actively covering for a few years now the Clinton Global Initiative. He's raised billions of dollars.
And he wouldn't be able to do that as first man?
No, because what would happen is anytime a foreign government or like an oligarch from Russia, I met some of them last September at Clinton Global Initiative, anytime they gave money,
restrained.
And this one oligarch gave $100 million. He wouldn't be able to do that if Hillary was president, because it
would
would look like he was buying influence.
What would his speaker fee go to as the presidential spouse?
Well, he wouldn't be able to accept. He wouldn't be able to do any of that.
How frustrating would that be?
Well, you know, he's actually, you got to say, on Clinton's behalf, he needed those big speaker fees when they were broke, when they left the White House and they had big legal bills. He really doesn't and never has cared that much about money. That is not really what motivates him. He's more interested in power and influence and being a, you know. And I think he genuinely wants to be one of those people who has a great ex-presidency and helps to save the world.
Without predicting what's going to happen, do you see him on a platform with Obama?
Oh, definitely.
Do you see him going into an Obama administration in some role?
Not in a formal role, but I have no doubt that what Obama said in the Des Moines Register debate, that he would, you know, use not just people who've worked for the Clintons, but the Clintons themselves for advice and help. I have no doubt that that's true.
So let's talk about another big issue, though, because I do think this is kind of overarchingly out there. This notion, it seems that so much about Obama's appeal to the public eluded the mainstream media, the establishment, whatever you want to call it, because they constantly sound surprised when they're reading the breakdowns of the exit polls.
Yeah.
When they're reading what the trends are, it's always like, oh my God, he was able to get white men. Oh my God, he was able to get white women. Oh my God, they're interested in this. Speak to this notion of this great hunger for change.
Well, first of all, since I hope I've made it clear that that I'm fallible and I was totally wrong about New Hampshire.
Okay.
So having said that, I think I can tell you where we were a little more on target. We didn't buy into that, and I did a cover story on Hillary and Obama that ran as our last issue in 2006, the year-end double issue, 2006, 2007, and the Clinton people were very upset with me and with Newsweek after that came out, because they made it sound, because they said that we had made it sound as if Barack Obama had a very good chance of winning the nomination, and they thought that was preposterous, and didn't we know? Everybody knew that she was inevitable and it was preposterous, and we wrote then, and we've continued to write all along, that he had a very, very good chance for the nomination. So, speaking for Newsweek, we haven't been in the slightest bit surprised by this, and there's none of our copy that would reflect it. So I think they made a terrible mistake in running an inevitability campaign. I said so at the time last fall. I said that they would be making a mistake if they did this.
Didn't it cost them the greatest two in organization, and that's where Obama has beat them on the ground, and his organization?
Yes, they didn't plan for anything beyond Super Tuesday, so they didn't organize because they were so sure they were going to wrap it up. I mean, if you're really going to diagnose what went wrong, and it's astonishing because they have very experienced people working for them, but
not enough
anybody
of them,
who's
maybe.
well, or people who
Or
didn't,
deployed well
people
enough.
who were blinded by their own whatever. If you followed these presidential elections, and this is my 7th for Newsweek that I've covered, you know that national polls 6 months or a year before an election are not only irrelevant, they're extremely misleading because they make people believe something about how an election is going to play out that simply isn't true. They're just simply name recognition polls.
Right.
So all those many months where Clinton was trouncing Obama, I knew and said publicly on many, many occasions that these polls were meaningless. That was one of the reasons that Clinton's people got angry with me. But the problem was, even if they didn't want to admit that they were meaningless, because if your person's ahead, why would you admit it? They didn't understand themselves that they were meaningless.
Yeah.
And that is really astonishing, because anybody who has been in this process knows those national polls are meaningless. And they actually believed their own hype. You know, and this is where they got beat, because the Obama people had a tremendous amount of hype in their campaign.
Is
We
she
know,
being
but
poorly-
they didn't believe their hype. They knew that if we just try to ride into
Right.
the nomination based on Barack Obama's speeches
Yeah.
and his hype, we're going to lose. So they were out organizing on the ground,
Right.
because they didn't believe the hype.
Well, so is she being poorly managed?
Terribly. I'd say it's one of the worst run campaigns in modern political history. And she's one of the better candidates. That's the irony, is that she turned out to be a pretty darn good candidate. And she, you know, a lot of people wonder.
How can a good candidate be poorly managed?
Well,
How
you
does
have
that
to
happen?
you have to have both a good candidate and a good campaign. You can't. They've got to work in tandem with each other.
Right.
You have to have good strategy and a good horse in the race, and that's where Obama has the advantage, because he's brought those two together. Does
Obama also have something, though, that just can't be, you know, harnessed necessarily? There's something that is almost ephemeral about it.
Yes, and that's, you know, the excitement and the inspiration, all
that
that.
nobody
that it creates.
anticipated.
No,
That we were.
Everybody should have. Certainly, we again. If you go back,
So-
if you go back to the Newsweek
so
cover
how
in
does a
late
mecha-
2006, we anticipated it. The question was always not, you know, can he inspire people? It was, would he? And this is what
And
his
did you
people said at
assume
the
he
time.
was the only one who could embody it?
The only people we had on that cover were Obama and Clinton.
Yeah.
So, and I think Joe Biden and John Edwards, they have a legitimate, Chris Dodd, they have a legitimate beef with the press, that it was seen from a pretty early point as a two-person race. We did end up doing a cover on John Edwards, and I wrote a column on Joe Biden saying,
Yeah.
you know, he could have Joe Mentum. You know, I wanted to give him his innings. You know, but in general, we did sell them short, and we saw it as a two-person race. But the Obama people, that ephemeral thing you're talking about is very real, Carol.
Yeah.
But and it's powerful. But they were smart enough to recognize it wouldn't get it done for them if they didn't back it up with an extremely
of course.
well-run
Well,
organization.
And that's what will really come to matter if he goes the distance and gets the nomination.